well for you. The cardinal sin on Hatteras Island by driving on the beach is don't shine your lights on the water at night. If you're coming out here on the beach and you see people fishing, don't come out there with those headlights on. If you see a group of people fishing there, before you get to those people, put your parking lights on. You're not going to any races, and drive slow and use your parking lights and go out. The first thing that they're going to do is start hauling if you put the lights on the water, because what happens there is those lights hit the water and that'll shut down any fish that's biting. The next thing that you're going to have to do, irregardless of what your books say or anybody tells you, if you're going to go on that beach without embarrassing yourself and getting stuck, you're going to have to drop these tires down to 20 pounds. What you want to do is go into that parking area next to the ramp that you're going to be getting on, drop your tires down to 20 pounds, then go on the beach. When I'm approaching that ramp and I'm on the ramp and I'm getting ready to go on the sand, that is when I engage my transfercation to four-wheel high, and I always use four-wheel high. You want to get in a rut that you've seen in tracks of other vehicles, and that's where you want to drive in those ruts. Remember one thing, when you're driving up the beach and you see cars parked along, 8 out of 10 of these cars have got little kids there and they're swimming. And the last thing in the world that these children are thinking about is being hit by a car. So always be cautious of what comes shooting out between those cars. These kids will come running out chasing the ball or whatever, and just be very careful when you drive by, please, and make sure that you're aware that you've got these kids running around. The best place to drive on a beach really is right at the water's edge. But don't ever want to go on the water's edge on a beach that you're not familiar with, except when the tide is falling. As long as that tide's falling, you're in good shape. What you need to do is when you first come to the island, the first tackle shop, ask them for one of these things, and that's a tide chart. And that'll tell you when the tide is falling and rising, and it's free. So be sure you have that. Your two most important things for your car is this tide chart and that tire pressure gauge. This is the ideal thing to look for. If you can find a place like this, this is the type of place you want to fish. See the way that beach cuts back? You have a deep hole out there. That is a perfect place. Up here on the beach, you've got a high drop off. That means that you have deep water. Usually you can pretty much go about what's underneath that water by the way the beach looks. If you're up here on the hill looking down, that tells you pretty much that water's deep out there. Now when this tide starts to come in high, you'll never be able to see this place. So that's why I always say, try to find a place to use for a reference point and then take a mileage marker so you can come back to the same place when the water's in. Coming up on another little cutback and some deeper water. You can see as we come up to it. Now the beach starts to go up and you have a high bank here. That's a definite indication that you've got deep water opposite that high bank, which you do. When you're going to stop and you fish in these places, you know that you're not going to have any problem getting back up on the softer sand and out of people's way. Keep your car close by if you're fishing out of the car, of course. And as the tide comes in, move the cars back. You don't have to have your car 15 yards away from the beach and stretch your line clear across all the sand. Go ahead and park right down close to it where it's convenient for you and that you don't block things up for other people that want to drive by. Super place for fun. Spanish mackerel and bluefish, you're looking for flat or deep water. You don't want to see a lot of these waves and stuff breaking across the bars. You're looking for that deeper water. This is the kind of water that you want to look for. You don't have any bars here. That means you've got deeper water here. When this tide gets in out there, those waves are going to be dead flat. The water's deep, and that's where your Spanish mackerel and bluefish, they like deeper water. And that's the places that you want to throw your metal. Is not in where you have a lot of wave action and small jaggedy bars. You want deep, flat water, the way this water is right in here. And this, You were going to throw metal, the stained silver and the spoons, the bluefish and mackerel, this would be the place to try. Here we've got the ideal slough. Now what you want to do here, if you're fishing in a place like this, when you cast, you're going to want to try to cast just on the inside of that outer bar. The outer bar is where you see those white waves breaking. You want to get just this side of that, and that is a good place to try. If that doesn't work for you, then you want to cast halfway between. The water there is usually deeper between the beach and where those white waves are breaking. As you see those waves coming in, and when they break off, what they're doing is they're breaking across the sandbar. So it's really good, especially for pompano, when the water's good and clear. You want to fish just on the inside of that bar, and when I say the inside, that means the part of the bar that's facing the beach. Now at this water, we're fishing the same place for sea mullet, and the water is crystal clear again. For the sea mullet, it's very imperative the water be clear. You'd want to fish right at the edge, not at the bar, right at the edge of the beach, 15, 20 feet, 20 yards, I'd say, from the beach. And you use your sand fleas and put them where that water just drops off of the surf line, goes down, and you have the drop off. Just off the drop off, that's where you want to put that bait, really close to the beach. Now the pompano, they like it out in the deeper water, and they're out there sucking in those sand fleas that's being washed over that outer bar. If you have two rods, it's good to fish them both ways. Like I said, if you have a freshwater rod, that's the one you want to use to fish in close. And take that other rod, throw it out just this side of the bar that I'm speaking about. You can set that in the sand spike, and again, be sure that that drag is loose. And a pompano, when he jumps on it, he's got it. You don't have to worry about setting the hook. He'll be on there. The ideal thing is if you can see a hole in those waves. In other words, where they're breaking in that straight line there, you're going to see a space. That means that there's a hole in that bar and a break in that bar. And what happens there, a lot of times that'll create what we call an outsuck. The current is rushing over the bars toward the beach, and then it has to go out somewhere, and it goes out through that deeper hole. And what that does is create, again, I call it an outsuck, or that's what it's referred to as. And if you look at the water, you'll see it looks just like a little stream flowing toward the ocean. It's exactly what it looks like. And on either side of this outsuck is a good place to put your bait. First thing that you really want to do is get that lure so that it's hanging about 1.5 feet, 2 feet from the tip of that rod. You have that lined up there. Take your hands, your fingers, and you want to spread them apart, and take those fingers, put them right at the foot of the reel on your rod. And of course, close your hand, take your right hand, and rotate the bail around to where you can pick up the line with your index finger. You take that finger and pull it back toward the reel. Always keep that line toward the reel. Then you're going to open your bail, and after you've done this, if you see you might want to let a little more line off, just slide it right off the spool until you get it where you want it. Then what you want to do is put your left foot forward, bring the rod directly behind you, and hold it back there. You don't want to just leave it back there and snap it. Have your forearm straight and that wrist straight. That wrist, it's important that that be straight. Because if it's this way, when you come across, even though you feel that you're going straight over your shoulder, what's going to happen is the rod is going to go off to the right. You let the lure go too soon, it'll cross anybody that's to the right of them. You hold it too long, it'll cross anybody to the left of them. Whereas if you keep everything straight, when you let the line loose, if you let it go too soon, it'll go straight up in the air, fall right in front of you. You hold it too long, what it'll do, it'll go right straight down in front of you. So you've not crossed anybody. So there again, keep that wrist straight and keep your hand back. Let the rod do the work. You don't have to run and stop at the beach. Just let the rod do the work. Have that lure hanging back. What you're going to do is you're going to snap with your right wrist, and you're going to pull down with your left hand, and this is the type of motion that you want. You hold that, Come around with your left hand as your line's going out. Now just hit the water. Take your left hand and close the bail. Take the slack out of your line. Put it in your sand spike and wait until something comes along. Now, when you take that reel and you're bringing it in, say that you've got a fish now. A fish has hit it, he's on. Take that hand away from in between that reel that you had there. Put your hand forward so to counteract the weight of the reel. Have the butt of the rod either rest on your forearm or you can hold it under here. Keep the rod at eye level as you're bringing your fish in. As that fish is coming in and he's coming with you and you can reel it without too much pressure, that's what you want to do. If that fish decides to run, stop. Let the fish go. Do not try to work against him. When you feel the pressure easing up, use the rod and raise it and pull the fish toward you. Reel down. Raise the rod. The whole time you want to keep that rod at about eye level. So if that fish makes a